Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. It's the France 24 debate. The Supreme Court in the United Kingdom ruling 8-3 that Theresa May's government will have to go before Parliament before triggering Brexit negotiations with the rest of the continent. Her minister in charge of the dossier says that will come in a matter of days. We're here to talk about it with a British Conservative member of the European Parliament, Charles Tannock. He is in Brussels. Welcome back. Welcome back as well to Evan O'Connell, Vice Chair of Labour in Paris and a consultant with Aspect Consulting. Andre Walker, columnist for the New York Observer, who is with us from London, and from Aberdeen, fair to say, the most French member of the Scottish National Parliament, Christian Allard. Welcome back. When the lower jurisdiction ruled the High Court in favor of sending this decision before lawmakers, this was the front page of the Daily Mail. It labeled the High Court judges enemies of the people, a headline that shocked many. And there is this sense that there's this feeling, Christian Allard, in Britain these days of acrimony and bitterness that the country really hasn't known in the past.
Indeed, it is. It's not a very good place. We're not in a very good place just now. I would like to point out that myself, I didn't have a vote as well in this referendum, like another 2.5 to 3 million EU citizens living in the UK. We are very much concerned of what's going to happen. And we are in a bit of a limbo just now, not knowing what our status will be after the referendum. So it's after the Article 50 is triggered and after the 2 years period. So it's very difficult for us. And plus, on the top of that, you're absolutely right, there is difficulties because this referendum was particularly debated on immigration. And we feel very much targets of a lot of people who think that maybe anybody who look foreign or sounds foreign, whatever they are, British or not, whatever they are, European or not, should maybe pack up and go. And that's very distressing because the UK, we've never been used to this in the UK. I lived here for 30 years and the UK was very much European countries, very welcoming. And something has happened, maybe before Brexit, but something has happened and now we are not in a very, very good place.
Andre Walker, one of the people who lodged this suit before the courts, she said she's received numerous death threats and rape threats. Going forward after this decision, is there a way to have this conversation in a more appeased manner?
Well, if only the European Union citizens in the United Kingdom had been able to vote. If only Rwandans in London had been unable to vote. If only British nationals in Paris had been able to vote. Get over yourself. Look, the truth of the matter is the referendum was fought hard and it was lost by the pro-Europeans. Let me tell you the difference between hard and soft Brexit. Let me tell you the truth. The Norwegian politicians for years have wanted their people to join the EU and their people continually vote against it. So they have an arrangement where they're effectively a colony of the EU, where they have to pay all the taxes, where they have to be subjected to all the laws, but they have no representatives in the European Parliament or at the Commission. It's not soft Brexit. It's a colony. If you vote to leave the EU, you have voted to leave the EU. So on the issue of, oh, has suddenly Britain become a racist, nasty country? Look, I believe in freedom, democracy and free speech. Jean-Claude Juncker doesn't. Herman Van Rompuy doesn't either. The European Union is not a democratic institution. It is not an expression of freedom.
But do you agree with what Christian Allard said? Do you agree with what Christian Allard said, which is that we didn't have this kind of acrimony before?
About the City of London. People have asked the question about the City of London. Everybody knows that it has been a long-standing desire of Brussels to ruin the City City of London because they strongly oppose the sort of Anglo-Saxon free trade capitalism that the City of London represents. This is not about freedom. It's not about me being xenophobic. It's about the fact that I oppose an undemocratic superstate being created without my permission. When we asked the British people whether they agreed with their freedom, democracy being taken by Brussels, they said no. And do you know what? In the fullness of time, there's a very good chance the French with Le Pen are going to vote no as well.
All right, then Charles Tannock, your reaction.
I think that's an appalling statement. Actually, Andre Walker clearly doesn't know much about the City of London, which I represented now for 18 years. It was actually Draghi wanted to stop the City of London trading in euro-denominated instruments. It was actually the European Court of Justice which defended the rights of the City of London, which is outside of the Eurozone,
what about the Tobin
trading
tax,
in
Charles?
euro-denominated bonds.
Tax?
And the Tobin tax has never happened and was never likely to happen. And if it did happen, it only happened amongst the 6 or 7 countries, including France, who were keen on it. There was absolutely no way they could impose it on the rest of the European Union. So I'm afraid I don't buy any of this. The fact of the matter is, if the EU was so undemocratic, why is Nigel Farage still drawing his salary as an MEP, elected, as it were, and given huge amounts of money and resources to try and destroy the European Union? Why is tiny Wallonia, why was it in a position almost to block the Canada-EU trade agreement because the powers are devolved to national and even regional governments? I actually find in many ways the EU more democratic. The fact of the matter is that MEPs were always going to have a vote on the agreement with the United Kingdom, including British MEPs, whereas there was an attempt to block MPs and peers from having a vote on one of the most radical changes in our constitution in over 40 years. So I don't buy any of this, I'm afraid.
The slight problem I have here is that Charles Tannock represented me as a London voter for many years, and he's done a great job in Brussels, there's no doubt about that. But the truth of the matter is, just because you've got good guys like that doesn't make the system good. And the truth of the matter is that it is the Commission that dictates many of our laws in the United Kingdom, put through the House of Commons and the House of Lords with really very little scrutiny whatsoever. And so I can fully understand why somebody like Charles Tannock or Syed Kamal or the other guys in London, the MEPs, feel that they've done a good job. But the system is wrong. And the British people didn't vote against somebody like Charles Tannock. They voted against the system in Brussels, and they were right to do so. The system stinks.
All right, which of course brings us back to what we were talking about in part one of our discussion, which is the issue of, by voting for Brexit, were they voting for a soft Brexit or a hard Brexit? The bill that will be presented, the Brexit minister says he wants a measure that is short in size and quick to get out there in the coming days. Yes. Is that a good idea? A bill that's small in size?
It's absolutely an awful idea. It's an awful idea because once again we're falling into the same trap that Britain fell into with the Brexit vote, which is setting out a course that is unknown to the British people. The reason the Supreme Court ruled the way that it did was because the Brexit referendum question was too vague. All the Brexit referendum question asked was, do you want to leave the EU? It did not ask what the Brexit deal should look like. At some point, the British people, either via their representatives or via a general election or via a second referendum, should have a say on what the Brexit deal looks like, or at least on what Britain's negotiating position should be. And so, no, I don't think at all that that the current government should be given free rein to put through a bill that's short and that just says Brexit is Brexit. I think that that's nonsense, and I think that the only people that would agree with that are the people that that believe the insane rantings of someone like our friend from the New York Observer.
All right, well, let's keep it civil here. Charles Tannock, let me ask you: are you in favour of a short document when they vote in the Commons and in the Lords?
I think that, I mean, it's not a question. I'm not a member of the National Parliament. It's quite clear from what David Davis said, there will be a short document authorising the government to trigger Article 50. But I don't think it would be acceptable that this short bill is not amendable. I think there will be amendments, and I think there should be a full and frank debate. There are predictions now that a hard Brexit with no deal could actually shrink the British economy by up to 5%. With a huge amount of jobs being lost, jobs being relocated. And for some people like Andre Walker, sovereignty has no price, and therefore it doesn't matter what happens to people who lose their jobs in parts of the country as a result of a hard Brexit. I don't want that. I want the soft Brexit. I actually don't agree with him on his analysis of Norway. Norway has a very good deal. It's not a colony of the European Union. The European Economic Area and the EFTA Court are not vassals of the European Court of Justice, and they can veto any law that they so choose. One of the reasons that Norway is very ambivalent about Britain joining that club is they think that they would have a very difficult customer amongst the three, which is Liechtenstein, Norway and Iceland, and that we would constantly be vetoing things which may well put the single market at risk. I think that we should still look at the EEA as an option, and we should still look at the Liechtenstein Article 112, which would allow us to have some cap on migration. I don't think at the doorstep, in London at least, I ever heard anybody say it's all about sovereignty. They were mainly concerned on the issue of the very large numbers of people coming, the pressure on public resources, and the false lies and promises made by the Brexiteers, like Andre and his friends, of £350 million a week going to the health service, which even Nigel Farage has now admitted was a mistake. For that, I mean, probably it was dissembling. They all knew that that wasn't the true figure, and they all knew that even if it were, it wasn't going to all go to the health service, which is underfunded. So I'm afraid that I don't feel morally bound by this hard Brexit injunction from the government, because it was a slim majority on a flawed campaign full of lies and false promises on a very strange electorate whereby my wife had no vote because she's EU, my mother had no vote. And I don't see anybody saying that they voted to impoverish themselves or the country. So I welcome the participation of Parliament, and I hope that we get a good deal. But unfortunately, because of comments like the ones we're hearing, there isn't much goodwill with the EU 27. The idea that EU citizens are going to be used as bargaining chips, like my wife and like the gentleman in Scotland, really has not set the tone for a helpful negotiations, I'm afraid. The EU 27 are very resentful the way there is so much hostility now to Europeans living in Britain. I think that's very sad,
Parliament in
personally.
Westminster will have its say. Not so the devolved parliaments in Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales. Wales, which voted in favour of Brexit. Scotland and Northern Ireland, which voted against. The Scottish First Minister, she applauds part of the decision, of course, by the Supreme Court, wishes, though, that her country's parliament had had a say.
You know, we've long been told that the UK is a partnership of equals with all of the four nations that make it up. But if we're now being told that Scotland's voice simply doesn't matter, that it will not be heard, it will not be listened to, not just that it's not enforceable in the courts, but it's not going to be politically listened to, then that raises a really fundamental question for Scotland. Are we happy to allow our future to be dictated by a Westminster government with one MP in Scotland, or is it time to take our future into our own hands?
Christian Allard, the statements by Nicola Sturgeon, very carefully crafted. At no point does she say she wants a second referendum on Scotland's independence. Why is that?
We need to take our time. You know, we made some proposition to Theresa May. We made 3 proposals, which she said she will study. But of course, we are not very, very helpful, especially after the decision today. What we've got to understand today, let's forget about Norway, let's forget about USA or even the EU. It's what the Brexit referendum has grave consequences for the UK itself, for the Union. We have a settlement, a devolved settlement between the UK, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. And this settlement was very much founded with European laws. Not only this, but there were as well a practice which says that devolved nations could decide themselves for a lot of the things. And one thing we wanted very much so is to have our very strong views on how we should go forward into Europe. And we wanted more to be listened to. Fortunately, we've not been listened to today. And unfortunately, the court has been very, very clear. Despite what so many people said, that the development was very much settled and we had a lot of powers, even said some that the Scottish Parliament was one of the most powerful autonomous parliament, devolved parliament in the world. We've seen today that it's not true. We saw today that the UK government can railroad anything they want into the Scottish government. So, and the Scottish Parliament. So devolution is very much at stake. And I'm afraid today, after this decision taken today, we will see what Theresa May is going to do, if Theresa May is going to give some political clout. But if she does, we have a big problem, is this devolution settlement that we had in the UK, unfortunately, is dead and buried. Because if
hang on a second. Let's not delude ourselves here. Let's not delude ourselves here. The Scottish National Party, and my friend on the other side of the screen from Aberdeen, the Scottish National Party want to break up the United Kingdom and want Scotland to be independent. That is what Nicola Sturgeon wants. To suggest that the only reason you had your time, now give me mine. To suggest that the only reason that he is now advocating a breakup of the United Kingdom is not because he's a Scottish nationalist, it's not because he was a representative of that party, it's purely because of Brexit. What utter bunkum. These people are grossly dishonest. The truth of the matter is, Nicola Sturgeon isn't interested in the European Union. She's not bothered about the economics. She's interested in breaking up the United Kingdom. Let me tell something else to your viewers. Always remember something that Nick Clegg and others said. Nick Clegg, my time, you had your chance. Remember people like Nick Clegg and Nicola Sturgeon always said that if we did not join the euro, 2 million jobs would be lost. If we didn't join the euro, 2 million jobs would be lost. Now they're saying that if we don't remain in the single market, 2 million jobs will be lost. They're even saying it will be 80,000 jobs in Scotland. These people have no interest in the economics. They have no interest in democracy. They just have their own little piece of the pie, their own little hobby horses. That's the truth of the matter. And when I was accused a second ago of being insane and ranting, well, let me tell you something that's insane. It is insane to turn round and say, oh, this is the reason the referendum was lost. It wasn't a fair vote. This person couldn't vote. This person couldn't vote. And that person did. The truth of the matter is the British people voted to leave the EU. Now, that means leaving membership of the single market. That means leaving the customs union. That means leaving the government in Brussels. That means the European Court of Justice, God bless it, can no longer tell us what to do. Leaving is leaving. This hard and soft Brexit is a fallacy. Do you want to be a colony of the EU, or did you vote for independence? Guys, we voted for independence.
All right,
really
Christian Allard, let me just ask you again, are you in favour personally of a second referendum on Scottish independence?
Yeah, of course, yes,
of course
absolutely. But that
he's a factional nationalist.
One at a time, please. Christian Allard.
Yeah, I think it's getting very, very difficult to have any kind of conversation tonight. One thing for sure is we have put proposals just to make sure that Scotland's voice is heard. If Scotland's voice is heard, it's not been heard in the court, unfortunately, today. If it's not heard politically, yes, of course, we will have to go through a referendum. But it's not what we want. We want, first of all, to make sure that the whole of the UK have a great future with our partners in Europe. Let's not forget they are our neighbours. I'm myself French. I still have the French citizenship. There are a lot of Brits, as we heard, who are living all across the EU. These things are very, very important. It's about people. It's about our freedom and what's going to happen to us next. So I think we need to ponder and to be very, very clear of what kind of country we really want to be.
All right, and before Theresa May triggers Brexit, there's this week to get through, and on Friday she'll be in the United States. Now, in an interview with the BBC last Sunday, Theresa May insisted that when she travels to the U.S. Capitol, she won't be going cap in hand. She said, I'll be talking to Donald Trump about the issues we share, about how we can build on the special relationship. It's the special relationship that also enables us to say when we do find things unacceptable, whenever there is something that I find unacceptable, I will say that to Donald Trump. Evan O'Connell? Yeah. Do you think Theresa May, what's her stance like as she heads to Washington?
Well, I do hope that she actually honours that pledge to speak truth to power, as it were. I do hope that she upholds Britain's tradition of being honest with its allies, even its closest allies, because if one isn't honest with one's allies, then they aren't allies. They're merely people that one is scared of annoying.
Charles Tannock, we all remember Tony Blair was nicknamed Poodle when he was in the company of George W. Bush. What is the pitfalls? How does Theresa May avoid that pitfall when she's in the company of Donald Trump?
Well, I mean, I think Theresa May is a formidable, strong leader and prime minister. I don't think she'll be slavish to anybody, least of all Donald Trump. And she will go there respectfully and made it perfectly clear that she disagrees with him on many things, including comments he made about women in the past. And I respect Theresa May very much for saying that. I think the problem's going to be that if the United Kingdom, according to my friend Andrew Walker, is at the front of the queue now and will have this comprehensive free trade agreement with the United States, and he sees that as a way of putting pressure on the European Union as we divert our trade, which we will lose to the continent across the Atlantic, there will be a very big problem, namely that Britain has quite a large trade surplus with America. Donald Trump has made it very clear he's isolationist, he's protectionist, he's populist, he's nationalist, all of these things. How is he going to square that with his protectionist instincts to have a free trade agreement with a country like Britain, which is exporting more to America than America is exporting back to Britain? Because that will clearly penetrate the American markets and potentially put Americans out of a job.
Unfortunately, we're out of time.
So I don't think we can do a deal that quickly.
We're unfortunately out of time, but I want to thank you, Charles Tannock, for being with us from Brussels, Andre Walker for being with us from London, Christian Allard in Aberdeen, Evan O'Connell. Stay with us. It's Media Watch here on France 24. And we say hello to Emma James.
Hi there.
The argument's only beginning, it seems.
Yes, and quite a lively argument it's been. I almost feel a little concerned about bringing a bit of humour in, but I will. This cartoon from the Telegraph newspaper, I think, is just a wonderful way of really poking a little bit of fun at the ridiculous nature of this all. We have the Supremes, stop in the name of love before you break my heart, think it over. And that, of course, is talking about the Supreme Court judges who've decided that, yes, the MPs must have their say. This is an interesting cartoon as well from Finland, which has Great Britain soaring off its own arm to get out of the EU, while Scotland is desperately trying to soar through the shackles that are keeping it attached to the rest of the United Kingdom. And as well as the Scottish, one group in particular who are shouting very loudly about Brexit and saying they will try to block it are the Liberal Democrat Party. And they're really hoping to rise from the ashes because
of what, they have 9 MPs, I believe.
Just 9 MPs. Yeah. So you do wonder how much they can possibly do. But as this Twitter user says, the Lib Dems demand a second EU referendum, spot on. A vote on details rather than just voting on a hunch. Because, of course, when people voted for Brexit, we didn't know what it meant. We've been told subsequently Brexit means Brexit. We now have a slightly clearer idea, but not all that much information. The Liberal Democrats, of course, suffered greatly from managing to get into power in a coalition with the Conservative Party. They really dropped all of their principles in order to keep things going with the coalition. One of their key pledges was that they would do away with university fees, and that one really is haunting them and will continue to do so. What they're hoping now is to seize this political moment and make this their new raison d'etre. Tim Farron saying, "We want the people to be given a final say on the Brexit deal in referendum." He went on to say in a statement that this Tory government are keen to laud the democratic process when it suits them, but will not give the people a voice over the final deal. But, as I said, they have made promises before, and people are remembering that. Every time I hear that the Lib Dems will save Britain from Brexit, I remember how they saved students from tuition fee increases, which, of course, they didn't. Jason Wiltshire, though, says he has been a Labour member all his life. He's just joined the Liberal Democrats for this very reason. So maybe it will be something that the party can act on. One thing, though, that a few people have pointed out is not only do they only have 9 MPs, but not all of them are actually in Parliament today to hear this momentous decision. So people basically wondering, really, I suppose, how deeply committed they are to this whole point. For the government, though, this really is the end of the line when it comes to Brexit. A quote from David Davis: "The point of no return, was passed on the 23rd of June last year." And this Twitter user saying, "Labour, Liberal Democrats, SNP, anti-Democrats, take note." Now, Guido Fawkes is keeping a track on all the MPs who have mentioned any kind of suggestion that they might actually vote against triggering Article 50. And they have a list of more than 80 MPs who have made suggestions in the last few months that they may vote against it. Interestingly, only 4 of them actually have leave constituencies, if you like, those constituencies who voted to leave the EU. Though only 4 of them saying they will go against it, including Owen Smith, who has gone on record today in The Guardian saying that whatever the impact on my career, I cannot wave through a course of action I believe will make people poorer and politics meaner.
All right, we're going to leave it there. And, of course, we'll be revisiting this when that bill goes down to not just the Commons, but also the Lords. Many thanks for that, Emma James. I want to thank our panel once again. Thank you for joining us here in the France 24 debate.